So I suppose I should, kick this off and say that welcome to the digital social distance edition of SiouxperCon. I'd just like to say welcome to Nick Simon, Timothy, I am going to get this last name wrong.
Go for it.
Granaderos?
Close. Granaderos.
Granaderos Jr. and
Yes.
Luke Baines.
Hey.
Welcome, all of you.
My favorite part is
Thank
that
you.
both of these guys usually play real bad people in everything they've done most of the time. Like Luke was, he's killed many people in movies I've done. Tim is, you've been a pretty bad person in some shows.
Just the bully.
And they're two of the nicest humans alive, so I feel like I have to bring them out and show how funny and nice they really are.
That's the truth with the actors that do like really good villains and always do the villain, because I've run into that with like stage productions and in that sphere, and it's always the guys who's just like, man, that guy is like the scariest dude on stage, and then behind the scenes they're like the nicest, funniest person, like by far.
It's a really hard life. I have a theory, and it's maybe that we get all the gross stuff out at work so that we just don't really, like, we've kind of like, we expel it when we're like, and so we just pretty cheery kind of fellows.
Yeah, that's actually my Instagram bio.
What?
Pretty cheery little fellows. Yeah, it's interesting playing the bad guy. I think you get cast for what you're, kind of what they see a lot of times, especially when you're starting on this industry. And apparently we kind of look like D-bags a little bit. Just a little bit. I'm speaking that's just from my point of view.
Yeah, I just look creepy. I look shitty. I look like I'm about to cause some trouble, and I don't know why, but it is what it is.
You've made your peace with it and you're leaning into it.
As long as I'm making money off it, it's okay.
Exactly. You got it.
I'll do anything for $1.
I hear ya. So I'm gonna dig now into my first canned question of the I was gonna say evening, but it's like not even evening here, let alone where you're at. So Nick, I understand that you are from Sioux Falls originally, or you're from the area.
Grew up there.
What up with that? What makes a Sioux Falls kid want to do horror movies?
I loved all movies, but like my mom hilariously was growing up, she was very obsessed with like horror movies and like true serial killer books. And this is at the 80s. So during the 80s, like it was the height of serial killers and things like that.
Yeah.
And my mom, I just remember like as a little kid, her telling me stories about John Wayne Gacy and Son of Sam, things like that. Where we'd be like,
as a child, at your bedtime stories, the story of Ed Gein.
Yeah, and my stay away from clown guys. You're like, oh shit, yeah. It was a lot of my mom's had a huge influence on just horror. Like I remember seeing, also, for some reason, again, I look back at this now as a parent. Like I saw Jaws in a theater or in a drive-in theater way too soon. I should have. I didn't want to take a bath for years. I still, and I look at my kids now going like, maybe I shouldn't. Do you guys want to watch Jaws? And my wife's like, no, not watching that. He's 4. I'm like, well, I saw Jaws when I was 4. I remember seeing like Halloween on TV. Because if it's on regular TV, it's okay for kids to watch. Was sort of the mentality. They cut out all the bad stuff. Like, no, I was like traumatized. So that might have something to do with it. And I don't mean that. I mean, it was actually, I'm very thankful for that upbringing because it made me very aware of that. That's my answer. My mom.
Mom.
In conclusion, mom.
Horror movies for mom.
Gotta watch those moms. Let's see. So you've just been working on together pretty ambitious project, this Untitled Horror Movie. Let's dive in a little bit here. What was, I've been reading about what you went through with it and everything. What was the most unexpected challenge for the three of you that you each encountered with this format? Because it's got to be, we're pioneers. This is totally unexplored territory here.
I mean, I think for me it was, and it's gonna be different for both you guys. So like, for me it was just like having the confidence, I think, to go forward and just, while we were making this thing, knowing that it was all gonna be fine and everything's gonna be great and everybody's gonna look great. As I was doing color correction yesterday, I was watching this thing going like, this is so insane that we did this movie all remotely and I have not left my house. I told the guy this is the second time I've left my house for this movie. The first time was to pick up a prop sword to drop it off at Kat McNamara's house. And the second time was to go to color correction. I mean,
the prop sword?
The prop sword is a prop sword. So I went to a prop builder in Deep Valley to pick up the samurai sword and then dropped it off at her house. That was the only other time I've left my house for this movie, with the exception of like picking up something from Luke's house or something. But I think it's just everything was such an uncertainty of like, is this going to work? What's it going to look like? And then as these actors kept on saying yes, I had to just bury that into the back of my mind, because like, with Tim and Luke and then Emmy and Claire and then there's some other, I mean, everybody that kept on saying yes to the movie, we're like, okay, they're either I have to make them look good. They have to look good. Like this has to work. Otherwise this is gonna be my biggest failure of all time. Luckily, I think it's one of the best. I think it's the best one I've done. So
wow.
I'm very excited. I'm very excited for people to see it.
It's pretty fun. It's funny what Nick left out of his sword story is that the reason he went to go buy a sword from a prop master is because I was in the process of buying a real samurai sword from Craigslist because none of the prop stores were open because of COVID. Everything was shut. Yeah. We thought we had a samurai sword and then we realized that it wasn't quite what we wanted. So it was like 2 days before we were shooting. I was racing around trying to buy this samurai sword. Like I was literally about to drive. I was on my way to Pasadena where a man was about to leave a samurai sword in his front yard for me so I could Venmo him cash and take the samurai sword.
I forgot about that.
And my phone died. I was on 1% and my phone died and I got lost and I ended up having to drive to Nick's house because I was going to go there after the sword. And I was like, yeah, I've got to call this guy. And he was like, first of all, here's a charger. Don't know why you don't have one in your car. Second of all, I don't think you should be going to some stranger's house buying a samurai sword. So I'm gonna take this one off your plate for you because you might have lost it.
Also, I had the fact that I had 2 iPhone chargers at my house. That one wasn't.
Yeah, I think my most unexpected challenge probably because before shooting it, like this was an idea that Nick and I had originally just to write a script during COVID, and then we decided to shoot it. And then I had essentially roped in all of my friends or people I have always wanted to work with, in the industry. I told them all that it was going to be great and we were going to do this. And I had done some camera tests with our DP and we had, figured out ways to shoot things and sound and get around. Like there was a lot of workarounds that we had to figure out. Sure. And every time a challenge just kept coming up, we were like, we'll figure it out. And our DP was so incredible at being able to be a multifaceted tech wizard that it kind of all came together. But I genuinely didn't believe that it was going to be anything until after we shot it. Like before we were shooting it, I had no idea what was happening. I was just like, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. Because I did believe that because I was trusting, there were people around me that I trusted. So I was like, even if I can't see it right now, I'm sure it's going to be okay. But I think my most unexpected challenge was acting. I forgot about that I had to do that. So like my first day, I was like, everything's great. Like the lights work, the sound was working, cameras were rolling, everything was fun. And I was like, oh my God, I have to play a character. And that was really hard.
Oh yeah, the acting.
Yeah, forgot about that one.
I would say for me, it's just from an actor's perspective. There were so many like technical things that we, had to concern ourselves with that we usually don't as actors. We just sit there and get pampered, and then we go on camera. But for this, for example, we're doing the FaceTime stuff, and connecting with someone's eyes and seeing their physicality is like a huge, it's like how I. Sorry, my dog wants to go to the bedroom. It's like how I connect. It's like how I connect with the other characters. But like for the FaceTime stuff, we literally had I had my tablet, I had the iPhone for shooting, I had audio on top of it, and then the little audio thing taped to the back, and we're not even looking at the other actors, we're listening to them in an earpiece. So you're having to respond naturally and truthfully to actually an image of yourself, because the phone is capturing you. So I'm looking at myself, hearing him through the headpiece, and then the whole time wondering if this is all crap. And then just trusting the people, behind the camera to make us look good. So I think the acting in some parts was, a challenge for me, and the technical stuff, but it all worked out. And like Nick said, he never gave in once that he was concerned with if it was going to work out, which gave me confidence.
Right.
So it was, very comforting, because the team, behind the camera was just like 100% confident in what we were shooting, what we were doing. So
right.
Felt like
and I think that's what bouncing up what Luke said. I think that because we had so many everybody is at the top of their game in this movie. I mean, every actor was so on. I mean, you guys had to light and shoot and did hair and makeup and wardrobe and your house, and then the fact that you guys performed as good as it is, and you guys were all I feel like you guys were all trying to outdo each other in a sense where it was such a good chemistry, and most of you guys have never met in person.
Well, it was after the table read, because we did the table read together, and that was for me the first moment where I was like, oh shit, we have to step up. Everyone was giving 100%. So it was everyone has to, it forced everybody to step up to the plate.
Yeah, nobody phoned it in. Everybody was 100% committed in the movie.
And I think that's something that is really interesting. If, we obviously went back and forth about a lot of casting choices, Nick and I, but one of the things that we were really strong on was, because we're shooting a movie ourselves, everybody, all the actors have to be people who are down to earth and ready to work. There are, I would say, probably 50% of the actors that I have worked with in my career who would not have done this movie, just because they're so used to walking in and acting. This was and I would say, partially honest when I told the actors what they were getting into.
Notice how he went to a higher octave when he said that.
You let them know.
I let them know in increments. I said, we're going to shoot a movie. It's going to look great. Read the script. And if you like the script, and they're like, yeah, the script's cool. And then we were so basically you're just going to have to film it. And then I think it was the day of, where we were by the way, you're probably going to have to upload all that footage yourself, because
transferred to hard drive.
Yeah.
They delivered us this box full of lights, full of, drive and sound stuff.
Yeah.
And we just had to configure it all. It was,
you're jumping a little ahead of my plan here, but can you tell me a little bit about that? The what I was reading about were called the How to Make a Movie kits.
How to make a movie kit. Yeah, it's something that we essentially devised. Basically, because of COVID, SAG had strict rules about, obviously, no contact. And when we shot the movie, we were right in the middle of lockdown. So everything had to be contact free. So it had to be something that the actors could all set up themselves. And that was something that was really hard, because even with something as small as sound, it's not that small, it's a very big part of the movie, but it's something that I thought would have been easier, sound, for instance. We went through so many iterations of the tech that we used, because it had to be simple enough for the actor to be able to set up, but it had to be high enough quality that we don't have to ADR the entire movie. Right. So that was something that we tested heavily before any of the actors got their hands on anything, and we tried to troubleshoot it as much as possible. I think the only thing that we didn't troubleshoot, I remember day one of filming, and one thing that we didn't just think about was that the lights, because we were using them we were using very small lights, but in a very specific way, and they were overheating and turning off.
Oh, right.
And it was like just something we never could have foreseen, and had to kind of work around that.
And charging, didn't we have some charging issues? Like we'd have to like charge computers and things that we didn't think about that you would just normally.
Right.
During a testing phase, you just didn't have to worry about a computer being on for 12 hours, you know,
right.
or things like that, you know, or a light being on for 12 hours, because some of them would run out of batteries. They'd run out of batteries quite a bit, and we'd have to, because one of those lights you'd have to charge, right?
Well, all of the lights have to be charged, but when we tested them, we plugged them into a wall unit so they didn't have to keep charging.
Right.
Problem is, it needs a certain amount of charge in the battery to even turn off. It can't like do like a direct power through the cord. So that was kind of a nightmare.
Yeah.
Getting really technical here.
My favorite part about the how-to kits was, you know, Kevin sent me. So Kevin's our director of photography. We all did these tests and camera tests, and Luke did lighting tests, microphone tests, all these things. Kevin put together like a PDF booklet of how to set up everything, and you know, with instructions and photos and all things. And he sent it over to me to look at. And I remember reading it, going, the only thing, my only note was you have to change the font. Remember the font he used in that book? Did you see the first one?
Yeah.
It was like a scary movie font, and you couldn't read any of it. It just it looked like blood font everywhere. I'm like, dude, what is this? It's not even a horror movie. Like, what are you doing? Like, it just makes people can't read this.
Good times.
Yeah, it was fun.
Do you have any, so, you know, distributing those and everything else, but everybody on the cast and crew kind of got it figured out with these kits?
Yeah, I mean, I had already kind of gone through, so every kit that we sent out, I had like, you know, pre-put together a lot of the stuff. So it was kind of straightforward. It wasn't, it was hard. And we had at least, I would say 3 calls before we started shooting where we had like tech runs of like trying to set different lights up and things like that. But essentially it was pretty like, you know, we had done a lot of planning, but it was also done a lot on the fly. You know, it was a lot of our cinematographer sitting here right now, for instance, on a call, and he would be looking at your screen and he would probably say like, oh, you've got a window to your right, or, you know, it's letting in some light. Can we block that off? I'm also going to add another light to your left, put that on 32,000 and at 60%, you know, like he almost a savant where he was like, this is happening, that's happening. And he would have to light 6 frames at once, which was insanity for him. I don't know how he did that.
I don't either, because, you know, when we shot especially when we shot the original run through for the movie, we had very few technical issues. It wasn't until we did a couple, you know, like we did like one day of pickup shooting later. Like we just, you know, when you get the whole movie edited together, you realize you want to reshoot this or add a scene. We added a couple new scenes. Sure. And during that pickup period, everything went wrong. Like we had like, I mean, it was like, nothing was working. And we're like, oh my God, how do we get through the entire core of this movie with no hiccups whatsoever? When during the one, you know, 36-hour period we were doing pickup shots, there was, you know, everything from like gardeners, dog barking, to like power problems, to cameras not working. Everything was just going wrong. You remember that? That was very frustrating. Yeah, really lucky.
I think also that happened kind of because it was so we had planned so much for the obviously principal photography, so that when we were doing the pickups, we're like, oh, we've done this before, it should be easy. And that's when things fell apart. But we got there in the end.
Yeah, we got it. It's good. It was definitely a mess.
So keeping in that theme, what was the most unexpected challenge in dealing with that?
From a tech aspect, gosh, I think it was about, at least for me, I think it was about finding like a real moment, not to get too actory, but it was hard to, you know, set up lights, know that the lights only have like 15 minutes of power in them before they overheat and turn off. That's in the back of your head.
While you're trying to like get in character.
Oh,
yeah, or your camera's falling down, or you know that because we were using shotgun mics, that if I turn my face too far that way, we're going to lose sound. So like, acting really under very specific restraints. And it's really funny because in the past, I remember like having been on set and being like, this doesn't really work. Like, I feel like I need some more space to move or do this or do that. And the crew being like, yeah, okay, we'll work that out for you. We can move this light, pull this back. We can give you this much space. Does that work? And being like, yeah, that's great. But never thinking about what exactly that means. Yeah. But now you're like in this thing, like for instance, I shot a scene in a hall, like it's like basically a cupboard. I shot a scene in a cupboard because it helped us create a certain lighting effect that worked really well. But there was no air in there. It was the middle of summer. It's very hot. I'm like sweating. There's a light in my face. Nick's on Zoom with me, trying to give me notes. And he can't see the full lighting thing. He's just kind of guessing from what he can see. So, it was, it was very interesting.
Let's see. So something I'm curious about with developing this, because obviously I'm guessing none of you were planning on doing something like this before the lockdown and COVID. So I feel like the turnaround had to be pretty fast, or you must have did you have a story and then you adapted it to like this kind of storytelling format? Or was it like this was all conceived of like within the first week of COVID? It was like, oh, we're doing a movie. I've got the story idea and here's how we're gonna, tell me a little bit about that process.
Well, I think it started because Luke wanted to write this horror movie idea. I had just turned in another draft for a thing I was writing, and I had some time and I said, sure. And then let's do it. And then as COVID hit, we were trying to figure out like, how can we do this now? Like, and it was just a kind of a wacky idea because I was commenting on how, I go, man, I think like a lot of actors I know are losing their minds right now because like if you watch their Instagram feeds, they're just like, they have no outlet to do anything. So like, I feel like we could get a really good cast if we could figure out a way to shoot this now because nobody's doing anything. Everybody wants to work. Like the thing about this industry is that we all do better when we're working. Everybody wants to do things, especially if you feel like you said, Luke, find the right people who are just like, who feed off that energy. So the idea was like, okay, well, this is what our restrictions are. Can we come up with something that we could do and then come up with a way to send people, kits or something and we can shoot this movie. We knew we didn't want to do a Zoom movie. So it's not like Zoom the movie by any means. But we knew we were going to have to use like Zoom or FaceTime and things like that to actually make the movie. So that's why we came up with the idea of like send cameras, send lights, send microphones. But then how do we still tell the story? So really the part of the movie is almost semi autobiographical in a weird way. It was like the movie we were talking about making was about a pendulum.
Right.
Horror movie, which is what this movie is about, kind of. And then we basically just transferred, the guy who had the idea into one of the characters was Tim. And then, had all the other actors who were on a show. So basically the idea was that, the show is about a bunch of actors who find out that their show is getting canceled. And then one of the other actors said, like, hey, I'm writing this movie. We can just shoot my own movie. And then they're like, okay, cool. So then they end up shooting their own movie and then they put it together. And, one person's like showing them clips from the movie that they're putting together. So part of it takes place over some sort of, fictitious Zoom type call. But it's a pretty fantastic, I don't know. The process was so crazy. So I don't know. I'm trailing off now because I've completely lost my train of thought.
When you guys reached out to me initially and you explained the whole thing, like you said, cooped up actor is not a good place to be. So I was like going crazy at that point anyways. So it was awesome to get the opportunity to have like some creative outlet, I was like, yeah, sounds awesome. And then like, I think like a month, maybe 3 weeks, 2 weeks went by. I can't even remember. And I hadn't really heard anything. And I was like, oh, maybe it's, this was too ambitious and they gave up. And then they were like, no, it's on. We got a script. I was like, he was like, we're shooting. They were like, we're shooting in like a week. And I was like, wait, what's
yeah, we just, we give ourselves these deadlines to try to meet, and because we knew that if we didn't at that time, there's a lot of uncertainty going on, so we did everything in Los Angeles and the state was on lockdown.
Yeah.
But we also had no idea when that was going to be lifted, and we at that time, you're talking like April. We thought this is going to be a 2-month thing. So I'm like, this could be off by June or July. Like, these actors are all going to go back to work. We're going to lose everybody. We have to hurry. We have to hurry. So our rush was just because we didn't want to lose all the people who, said that they would do it. Here we are now in September, October, and we're still not too far off than we were then. But so I think the rush was to get them that way, but we wrote the script in record time, and we were constantly rewriting it.
But what's also funny though, I think, I don't know if you remember this, but originally, Nick, we had decided that we were just going to write a scriptment. We were going to write like a treatment outline and improv most of the stuff, because we knew that all the actors that we were bringing on were had really good improv comedy chops. So we were like, let's not over-prescribe it. Over-prescribe it? That's not a word.
Yeah, it's a word.
Anyway, over-describe it, whatever. Anyway, don't take up writing as a job, Luke.
He's a writer.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to write a script. I thought, let's just give them some outlines. But then the further we got into it, the more that reps wanted to see a script and people wanted to see a script, and we were like, okay, yeah, we should write a proper script. So we wrote the script. And then we kind of fell so in love with the script that we were like, okay, so you can improv, but no changing the lines. No.
Yeah. So we do encourage improv for sure, but there was definitely moments in the movie where I kept on going back to, hey, let's just say the lines in the script a couple times. Yeah, because we go I think the script is pretty good in this part, so let's just stick with the script. That was funny because the first draft was like 50 pages or something really, really light.
Yeah.
Wasn't like 50 pages. Because that was the idea. We're going to try to do like a Christopher Guest thing with it. We're like, we have a very tight outline like Curb Your Enthusiasm or Best in Show, and then kind of workshop the scenes. I can't imagine how long that would have taken us to get through the movie too.
Yeah.
I mean, and like it was already an insane process to edit this film.
Right.
So I can't imagine if I had things that were, it's also, one of the most structured screenplays I've ever been a part of. So like, I can't imagine, and it had to be just from the nature of this movie. But I think that it would have been a complete nightmare had we had just, trailed off like answers to questions.
Yeah, you don't want to give actors that much free rein.
No.
It would have been a nightmare to edit for sure.
Mm-hmm. It would have. Also, pacing would have been a nightmare. I think that the thing that's good about this movie is the pace is really quick. So it's like it really does move in a good way. So I think that is very helpful.
Yeah.
Nice. So, Timothy talked about this a little bit towards the beginning of the interview here. How hard was it, we talked about the technical challenges, but with the emoting and getting into like the frame of mind to do this, how difficult was that, especially for, the parts where it's very heavy with the Zoom call aspect where they're communicating back and forth that way? How do you emote through a little screen?
I'll go first. Honestly, I would say the Zoom stuff where we were all together was the easiest.
Yeah.
For me, because
Agreed.
Everyone, like they were saying earlier, everyone was so in it that no matter which screen you looked at, they were in that moment. So it was really easy to play off each other. And the script, like they said, the script moved pretty fast. So a lot of those bigger Zoom calls were just it felt like really natural conversations. Some a bit ridiculous, but those were for me the easiest. I would say the FaceTime stuff. I remember one of my more dramatic scenes, I guess. There was this. We were doing a reshoot on it, and trying to get in that zone, make sure the lighting's right, hit record. I'm gonna move here. I'm gonna be sitting down when I'm here, but I have holding it here, make sure I'm in the frame, and then you have to kind of put yourself in a certain place. And then I hear this light techno music just outside my kitchen. I'm like, wait, hold on a second. And I go, pull open the blinds, and the two neighbor boys are out there washing their car with their shirts off. Listen, I'm losing it. Dun, dun, dun. I'm like, I have to like open the window. I'm like, yo, guys, I'm like shooting something here. Would you guys mind just turning it down just a little bit? And then going back to the fridge, and Nick's like, you good? You all right? And I'm like, yeah, no, I'm fine. And then just instantly kind of snap back into it. But it's, finding the honesty in the scenes while dealing with all these elements that you can't really control and the ones you can. So
I forgot about that. From our point of view, from that, because we're watching it on Zoom, it was Tim going, can you guys hear that? Just hold on. And he'd get up, and then we just heard him like yelling at his neighbors. And then he'd come back. I'm like, okay, cool, we're good. I'm like, what happened? Like, because we can't hear what you could hear. I'm sure your microphone, I'm sure your actual mic that we're shooting would have been.
It was loud. Sure. It was loud.
And he just for the actual record, because I went through that footage because I wanted to put it in the bloopers. And Tim actually just does this. He goes, "Can you guys hear that?" Just give me 1 second. And like very calm, actually.
That's me trying to stay where I need
stay where you were
while reacting to you. I'm losing
because in my head, I wanted it to be you being like,
Frat boys, am I right?
Oh my God, that's awesome. And also given to you guys' credit as actors, we were watching this too, and I've as editing this movie, and I've made my poor wife sit through every single cut and every single version of this movie. And she was just like these guys are this by themselves in their houses. And I'm like, yeah, they are. And when you see the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's certain scenes where they're like going crazy, like throwing. I mean, I can't imagine. There's scenes where people are just being, screaming and running, and I can't imagine being a neighbor or being somebody who's like just because you're by yourselves in your house.
Well, except for people who are in relationships, because I feel like Tim's poor fiance must have just been like,
she's looking at me like,
what the hell? Do you know what? It's actually funny because I showed someone a clip the other day. Like a friend of mine, and she was like, I feel so bad for their partners. I was like, why? And she was like, it was a scene of Kat like screaming, and she was like, that all these actors' partners must have just been in the other room being like, what is going on? Like, I'm trying to watch Law and Order.
Yeah, poor Katie was cooped up in the bedroom or outside in the living room for a long time.
A long time. Yeah.
She watched the entire season of OC while we were filming.
Oh, wow.
Legend.
Wow.
Legend. That's a great show.
Quarantine, am I right?
Mm-hmm. Quarantine. Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that's awesome.
So that the neighbors thing, that brings up something that I saw in the Vanity Fair article a little bit too, with the sounds. And I was thinking of that from a podcasting perspective. I record a lot of podcasts here in an apartment studio, and I get neighbor noise at certain hours and stuff like that. I'm guessing that you guys got to discover the full gambit of neighbor noises and building noises and
garbage trucks. There's construction across the street, and I could hear this fire alarm beeping, and I was like, we shot an entire day, and then at the end of the day, I was like, could they hear that? Now. This is the first time we're hearing of this too, so now they're gonna go back and scrub that.
No, it's like, you know what though, it's not too bad. Some miracle happened, and I don't know if it was Nick. Someone on the post-production side said, actually, it was our editor, our incredible editor, Don Money, said that this film has the least amount of ADR of any film that he's ever had to do.
Ever. Me too. I've ever done. I have literally 1 minute and 39 seconds worth of ADR. Usually I have 10 or 15 pages from each actor that have to go in and loop dialogue of noisy things or whatever. And this one here, I think I have 2 pages for the entire movie.
Wow.
Which is pretty crazy. It usually takes us like Girl in Photographs, for example. I think I was doing ADR for 2 days, two full days. This one will take about 30 minutes, maybe. total. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's
So actors should always just make themselves, I guess.
exactly.
No.
Get in.
No.
Absolutely not.
I'm joking.
Speaking of that, something I was going to ask all three of you. I'm curious. Would you ever make a movie this way again?
The sequel.
The sequel, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a great idea for the sequel, so I'm very excited about that. But
Nice.
I think I would do it with the right people. You know, like I can't tell you how much we lucked out with the people that we had in this movie, just on the crew and the cast. If somebody else, like if it came through, like my manager calls me, she's like, "Hey, so these people are doing a movie, you want to get involved?" I genuinely would be like, "Oh, I don't know," because I know now how much work it is, and unless the people that you're working with are cool, it's never going to work.
Yeah.
Like it like definitely lightning in a bottle. The fact that we had a crew of no weak links.
Yeah. It honestly felt like we were just hanging out. Like I looked forward to hopping on Zoom and seeing everyone's face. And
Right.
I mean, I didn't have to worry about too much of the technical stuff, but I would do it for sure. I would prefer to have someone mic me, and I would prefer to not. There are little things I would prefer to not have to, upload the stuff at 2 a.m. But it was as like with as technical as it was for us, it was seamless.
Yeah.
It was fine. It was all good.
It really wasn't that. Yeah, we kind of like got it down to a science after a while, so it wasn't too bad. I think the only thing I don't miss, like about, being like, the only thing I don't miss of set is just like smelling other people's BO. But apart from that, it's pretty much it. Like I genuinely miss a set. That's it.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's why you play the creepy roles, Luke.
He does just walk around and smell people too.
Because like you always get like someone will come like some poor guy who's been there since like 4 a.m. He's been working 10 hours and he's like, "Hey, I've just got to like mic you or apply some VFX makeup or do something," and they're like just doing this in your face and you're like, yeah. But apart from that, I genuinely miss a crew very much.
Yeah, I miss it too. I don't know. I mean, I don't think it would be my first choice to do a movie like this again. I mean, at the time, it was just such a moment in time. That it was like, this is all happening now, and we could do it this way. We could do it this way. It was very much an experimental film, and I think it. Luckily, I mean, it really did work out, and I think it's really a good movie. I don't know if I'd want to do another one by choice. I mean, it really just, you're right. It just depends on the situation and who's involved, really. Because I can't imagine, doing a movie like this with some of the worst, like some of my worst experiences as a career of making movies. I can't imagine that, and then adding this layer on top of that would be, and I mean, it would be really a deal breaker. But like, I don't know. I mean, this was definitely had a lot of challenges, and it was a way of working that nobody was used to. And just from my perspective as a director, to talk to actors, you always want to just pull an actor and talk to them individually. I'm like, here, this is, you're looking at a scene and you're trying to give a note. I'm going to give you a note, but like this, it's usually just me and you. With this format, it's me and everybody. And everybody can hear every single thing I'm saying to everybody. Not just, I'm giving Tim a note or I'm giving Luke a note. They're all hearing it. And not only are they all hearing it, everybody in the crew is hearing it, because we're all in the same chat room, essentially, so you can see and hear what's going on. So the producers are hearing the notes. And the editor, if he's logged on, he's hearing the notes. Sometimes the composer would log in to see what was going on. He would hear the note. And then if I think about it in those terms, it gives me like anxiety attacks, because I think as a director, I prefer to work in a more intimate setting, in a sense where I can actually just talk to the actor individually. And I think that was one of the hardest things, I think, for me. And that's why I don't think I would really look forward to doing another one like this, because it was really kind of traumatic in a sense where you just, you know, and I remember like having to write. I had like these little index cards, you know, constantly next to me, and I would, as I'm watching these takes, and these takes we do like long takes of 9 minute long takes.
Wow.
I'd write notes with actors, like as I was trying to watch, like just write notes. Okay, this, and I would try to keep track of everything. And to be able to try to do that again, I think it is lightning in a bottle, and I think it would be. I'd have to really think about it. We definitely have to get paid for the next one. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice. So let's see. Did any of you have, this is my podcasting coming out here. Did anybody have any projects upcoming? I mean, obviously you've got this film coming up that you're involved in that you wanted to plug or talk about?
Just unemployment. It's a challenging job, but somebody's got to do it. No, you know, Nick and I are working on some other projects, and just trying to finish this off. You know, we've probably got about 3 weeks left. Right, Nick?
By the time this convention is, because the convention's the 3rd, 4th, right?
3rd and 4th of October, yes.
The film will be done.
So the film will be done by then. We have a couple of, you know, we've got a couple more weeks in front of us of getting this locked. So that's pretty exciting. And then, yeah, we'll see what the rest of the year shapes up to be.
The film will be done by the end of September, and then end of this month, and then it'll be. Then they go into sign. I know a lot of people have inquired about buying it, which is good. So I'm hoping it comes out. I mean, it'd be amazing if it still come out this year. But who knows what the release plan is. Again, you know, in March this wasn't even an idea. So now we have a finished movie almost. So it's like,
yeah,
you think about it in those terms, you're like, what?
Just having the smallest bit of familiarity with the like movie process, I'm blown away by the fast turnaround. I'm like, did you like have a crystal ball and you knew this was coming so you could hit the ground running in March? I mean, good grief.
No, it was just a
pendulum.
It was just a complete fluke. I mean, I honestly, it took me six years to get The Girl in the Photographs made. And it took me realistically 4 weeks to get this movie made. I mean, getting into production, once we wrote the script and all of a sudden all the actors started saying yes. And then, I told Luke, I think we should probably talk to some real producers at this point. Cause we can package it up to a certain point, but I don't know how to deal with SAG. I don't know how to do all this stuff. So we talked to, you talked to Liz Hanna.
Yes.
Originally, who wrote like The Post, and I've known Liz for years too. We went to AFI together. And then she recommended Marina, and then Marina said, you guys should talk to Bronwyn, who I've been working with Bronwyn on another project. So these other two producers who just did this movie called Clemency came on board, and then which won like Sundance last year. So they were like, you know, legit producers who've done, this is their first realm into like genre, I think, you know?
Yeah.
But they loved the script, and then the cast we already had a package, and we had producers, and then they were like, you know, I think we're gonna have to we didn't realize we had to like raise money for it. We're just like, we'll just do this, it'll be great. And then we're like, oh, she's like, I think we need to find money for this because there's things we're gonna have to pay for, you know.
Right.
And we're like, oh yeah. So then I remember calling. I have a film investor friend that I've known for years that I've never ever called for anything. I just have a weird, you know, as far as like as a filmmaker trying to find investors to invest in your own projects. I personally just want to make sure that they'll get a return on the investment, which is something I really can't guarantee as a filmmaker ever. But I felt strongly enough with this project that I think this is pretty good. You just know when everything's starting to line up. You're like, I think this is, and it's not, you know, I think we can do this, and I know the cast is great, and you know, and then he said, sure, send it over to me, and then he read the script. He read half the script.
Yeah. He
called me and said, so if you don't shoot this like now, you're gonna lose all these actors, right? And I'm like, yeah, pretty much. He's like, well, we gotta shoot this in like 2 weeks. You gotta shoot this by the end of the month. And we're like, yeah, cool, yeah, sure. And then I remember he specifically, he
he was like, you know, yeah, you like, he's like, so I read half the script and I was like, oh, he didn't like it. And he's like, and then the second question was, you need to shoot this now, right? And we were like, yeah. And he was like, okay, so like, is a direct transfer easier? Do you want me to write you a check? Like, what do you want? And I was like,
no.
I was like, wait, what? But you didn't, oh, it was so good that you didn't need to finish it. Didn't expect that one.
Yeah.
Great. Like,
and he's been so cool and this is our executive producer who, you know, he was like, I've showed him like, I think the first cut of the movie maybe. Yeah. And he hasn't wanted to see anything else. He's like, I love it. This is great. He's like, don't show it to me until it's done. I'm like, okay.
He's so smart in that way of like, find people that you trust and then trust them.
Yeah.
Like I think it's one of the smartest things that you can do, especially in this business, is like, just don't get in business with people you don't trust. And then when you do get in business with them, trust them.
Right. Which going back full circle to one of the first questions about like, you know, how we felt going into this and how we all kind of trusted each other. And I always knew that, you know, you guys are great actors and Kevin's a great DP and you guys had faith in me. And I, you know, like but nobody really knew what this is going to look like. I sort of equate that to, I remember one time when I was back in the late 90s, I was in this band and we're playing somewhere and we're in a van and there was a tornado on the interstate, literally coming towards us. So we pulled over underneath an underpass and we're all sitting there and it was a tornado going over. It was in Minnesota somewhere. And I remember just being terrified and it was so bad that the whole van was shaking, everything was crazy. And then somehow we all decided to get out and go underneath the underpass, which is what you're not supposed to do. But the only reason we did, because there was like 30 other people underneath there from all over from the highway. I remember getting under there and it weirdly, it's technically like a vacuum. If it did go over us, it would have sucked us all out like idiots. But when we were under there, we all felt better. Like, you know, I feel safer under here. You know, and it's not because you're safer. It's actually just the opposite. But we were all, and that includes everybody in this movie, I think, was nobody really knew what it was going to look like, but we all felt better because we're all doing it together.
Right.
You know?
Agreed.
Yeah, 100%.
And confused by the hurricane story.
We could have been sucked out by a tornado.
Tornado, Luke.
Tornado. Sorry.
But
Minnesota.
We did not. And, we all, you know, it turned out pretty good. And, you know, and then again, editing the first 10 minutes of the movie was probably the hardest part of post-production, because that's where we were figuring out what this thing was going to look like and how you know, because do we want to keep them all up on the screen? Do we want to do in and out? Are we using one take? Are we using like multiple takes? Are we hiding edits? Like it was such an interesting process too. Once we figured out how that workflow was going to look.
The turnaround time is still blowing me away, because I'm thinking about, well, not only did you have to make it and film it and write it, but you also had to develop a totally new like process for, okay, we'll have the actors do this. And it just, so it's like you invented a process, you wrote a story, you filmed it. It's just like, did it all in months, you know.
and there's visual effects we're dealing with now, and sound effects, and like, you know, we have a VFX guy who's going through and adding. There's some things we have to add to the frames, and it's just been a crazy process. And then we're still doing everything remotely, you know. Well,
I'm really looking forward to seeing it, guys, and I'm guessing that you know, anybody that hears this interview is going to be too, because it's a really cool project, and it's been an honor to get to talk to you about it.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It was fun. I'm glad you guys did this. It was. I wish I was supposed to be at this convention in person.
Yeah, I was going to come with you.
You were.
I love Sioux Falls. Nick took me out there for a movie. So he was like, "We're doing this convention." Yeah, he was like, "You're doing this convention. Do you want to come?" I was like, "Yeah."
Last year we did a short together, and I shot it in Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
Randomly. Yeah.
Nice.
Which that should be coming out, and I think I want to say it comes out around Halloween this year.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, thank you very much for having us.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Luke, Timothy, Nick, and once again, this has been Robert Mailing of the Sioux Empire podcast for SiouxperCon Online. Thank you for joining us.